There is a lot of folks who do believe that one of the roles that's going to come out of marketing in the next couple of years is similar to the governance title, but it's
Uh-huh,
almost like an AI regulator for marketing output, like
uh-huh,
marketing stuff that comes out of these AI agents to prevent PR disasters. And like you mentioned,
yeah,
like the erosion of customer trust. Like the
right,
best example I have, I know you're an avid golfer. I
mhm,
don't know if you're familiar with like the PGA's disaster with generative AI images a
no,
couple of
tell me.
years back
Yeah,
now.
no, I'm
But
not familiar with it.
they had a bunch of different golfers and they were trying to use AI to generate finishing the headshot. So the headshot was like like stopping at the chest, and then they're like, "Oh, we use generative AI to finish the body." And all of the white golfers had a nice professional business
Eh,
outfits, clean background, and the couple of golfers that were colored had, like, work outfits, and they were, like, constructions and working in the fields, and so it was, like, a bunch of folks who were just like, "How did the marketer allow this to get posted
yeah,
on social?" Like,
yeah,
no one thought of the bias involved in the models, like, what message are we sending? So, anyways, it's still live on their social media page, you can still find it today. I referenced it a couple of times, but it's the
yeah,
perfect example of, like, human in the loop in this certain
yeah,
situation here. It's
yeah,
a cool idea, like, use generative AI to finish headshots and like, "Oh, cool," but,
yeah,
there's a ton of bias in these things and hallucinations, and I think the red team
yeah,
drill would have come in handy here, like, what if a PR disaster happens because of something that just came out of our model, right?
yeah. Yeah, that's just unacceptable, and, like, that's true of any process, right? Like, you need to build in a
Yeah.
check. I just don't understand how companies can do that, especially when there's, that there's trust at stake, and, yeah, that's how brands get built, right? By being in tune with customers, and, like, that's an obvious violation of, like, any sensibility, in any brand, in the world, so
Yeah.
that's a failure of process more than the tech itself.
Yeah, yeah, totally fair. Let's talk about some of the other roles here. So, like the role of a marketer was already
Mhm.
really misunderstood in the
Yeah,
last couple of years. Now, with like AI and GTM being one of the most obvious use cases for
yeah,
AI, marketers are feeling a ton of pressure. It comes out in the report in a bunch of
yeah,
cases. Marketers are expected to do more with less and work a
yeah.
lot faster. What skills do you think our top 100, top 50 marketing leaders need to have that maybe they don't have today in the next like 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to, hey, how can you move with agility? How do you enhance velocity? That requires a mindset that says, hey, we're going to move quickly. We're going to move quickly in a certain direction. So you need to be clear about what direction you're going to. So being able to sort through a lot of different disparate information to set a strategy and then be clear about how you're going to get there more quickly. That requires comfort with failure because you're going to actually have missteps along the way. If you're going to move quickly, you don't sit around and like try to produce one campaign, whatever that means, and then study it like for weeks and weeks and weeks. You need to get multiple campaign ideas or things out, experiments into the world, and be okay knowing that like you're going to not get perfect statistical significance at every step of the way. You're gonna have to try to break a few eggs to make an omelet. Like, that's a mindset. I think, working cross-functionally is always something that's important, but the interplay between data teams, data science teams, marketers, and the underlying tech, the infrastructure, building out these models and basically flexing them, evaluating the models, right? The way you get ahead of that stuff is actually evaluate the efficacy of any model. So we have teams that are looking at all the different models each week to basically see which tasks are better or worse than others. So evaluation is another skill as well that is not necessarily something that historically has been around. But if I zoom out for just a sec to summarize, basically any big innovation in artificial intelligence, whether that's whether it's self-driving cars, whether it's advertising with Google in the first place, whether it's Billy Bean with Moneyball, right? There's three ingredients, maybe four if you include what I just said about eval. So like you have a step function improvement in the data, the underlying data, right? We've got lots of different data. We've had a step function improvement in the real-time nature of data. That's one. Secondly, you need task-specific algorithmic improvements. Right, so when we think of these agent swarms, right, it's not only the steps individually, right? No, who are we going to talk to? What am I going to talk to them about? In what sequence? Each of those are steps in an end-to-end marketing flow. But then you have task-specific algorithms that govern how the things fit together, right? And when you get improvements in those algorithms, and you get unlock. And then the last is maybe sounds hand wavy, but you need courage.
Mm,
It's like you need the courage, the chutzpah to basically say, we're going to try something that isn't perfectly figured out, but we're going to do it anyways. We're going to do it because it's a better way. And each of those different iterations or like step function improvements in the past, those are the common ingredients. And that's what you need to inhibit, inculcate in your teams, really. So, and overcome the nonsense, overcome the timidity, right? People just need to lean into this stuff.
very cool. A lot of folks say curiosity is kind of the first thing. Like, oh yeah, people need to, you know, research, go down rabbit holes, like figure some of this stuff out.
Yeah.
But you're the first one to mention courage, and I think that's a
Yeah.
really powerful idea here because there is a lot of hesitancy with this stuff. But the 2025 AI and Marketing Performance Index did show that the top marketers, the ones that work at teams that are growing the fastest, are taking this stuff very seriously. They're taking AI seriously. They're scaling it, if not like thinking about it mindfully, and they're upskilling their skills. These
Yeah.
marketers, like they own their own careers, right? So they're like helping the companies by doing this stuff, but they're also investing in their own careers by taking this stuff seriously. But not every company can afford to hire like a top 100 marketer that has that courage and that curiosity. How do you see your responsibility as the CEO or like the responsibility of the boards to plan to upskill or to hire folks that or to like acquire these skills for the marketers on the team right now? What are your thoughts there?
I don't subscribe to the premise, by the way. Like, I
Mm,
don't think it's about affording, like these tools, subscription to these tools are $20 a month. Like, I mean, like it's cheap as chips, as they say in Australia. Like, it's like these tools are amazing. There's a reason the underlying companies that are offering them, at least the ones that are effective, are growing at the rate they are. So I don't buy that. I just like everyone has access to these tools now, right? That's the amazing thing. That's the ChatGPT moment. It got
mm,
caught the creativity of everyone, the imagination. So,
mhm,
so I just don't subscribe to it. I think you need to basically think of these as like teammates. Literally at Growth Loop, we're always thinking about what most people are familiar with job ladders or career ladders. What's expected in a different job family at different stages of one's career. What does the basics look like, and what does mastery look like? We're doing the same with AI, your AI competency, right? So to say, hey, what's expected by function in a different seniority in terms of the use of AI? So being explicit and intentional about that, not just saying, hey, we're an AI first company and like, thinking that osmosis will kick in and it will magically happen. Being intentional, just as you are with a career ladder. So that's one specific example. But I think it has to run through centrally through a talent strategy, right? Whether any size company, basically think about developing, acquiring or attracting, developing, and then retaining people. If your value proposition doesn't have AI fluency or the ability to basically use these powerful technologies to improve and change the work, then like I think you're just going to get left behind. So you need to be intentional about it with your talent strategy. So like, and I think like the top like 100 or whatever, depending on the size of the company, you need to be really clear about it, and you need to map it out just like you would sort of a succession planning strategy, right? You need to think about how do we enable each one of these top N 100 people in a company to make sure that this isn't like optional, or you just leave it to hope. Hope's not a strategy here.
I love it. Love your thoughts there. So we kind of talked about like human in the loop a bunch of times here. I love that growth loops philosophy around this isn't just like we're replacing humans for a lot of this stuff, and you can just like buy our agents to replace a lot of that stuff. There is still a core human in the loop component to this. What do you
Yeah.
think happens to the role of the marketer in the next few years when most of these companies finally do roll out AI agents within their current strategies? Is the future of marketers becoming way less of these like execution folks, and that means like marketers themselves become more like editors of the process, the journeys that as you guys kind of call them, or we become like product managers? What are your thoughts on like this evolution?
Yeah, I mean, I think mediocrity goes away. I think any of the 80% of the execution focus only goes away, and that gets repurposed elsewhere. That's not to say that like certain functions and jobs won't go away. They will fundamentally change and probably go away. But I'm of the belief that yeah, your skills will be retooled. Yeah, editing. You mentioned curiosity? Yeah, curiosity, coming up with ideas, creativity, working across the different parts of the organization, your facility with technology, right? I think the folks who sit in one channel with one tool and, just kinda put their head down and do their job like that, that's not the way this is gonna work. We're gonna be
Yeah.
working more like in technology agile pods, right? If you think of, like, how people develop software. It'll be similar in marketing, right? You have a very small self-contained team that's going to move end to end and move very quickly. So it will look different fundamentally. Again, the hallmarks will be speed and curiosity and courage to basically try massive amount of experimentation and moving with pace. So that's sort of how I see it. I think there'll be blurring between data science and marketing, like we've seen in the past, but it will be for reals, and then a technologist, right? So that's how I roughly see the marketing teams evolving: smaller, more nimble, with a real stripe of technology and AI running right through it, with data scientists doing machine learning, reinforcement learning alongside swarms of these agents to get things done.